here we are following that previous, of course it's following the previous video. What am I saying? Continuing on from the video, which I'll mention in the notes because I can't remember the title right now, where we're working with the Blackstock tartan, answering a couple of questions from people about the front apron. And the first question is, why is it that I do all of my pleats and then the inside apron and only then the outside apron? And that is because despite our best efforts, we're not machining to precise tolerances, and or the tailoring equivalent thereof. There can be a cumulative degree of error, whether or not that counts or not, whether or not it looks well on the client. If it's dumb and it works, it's not dumb, right? So what I do is habitually I do all of the pleats, and then let's say the pleats are supposed to be 22 inches on the dot, and then you measure it, because the thing I'll do half of the pleats, and then I'll measure it. If it's 50% right on, but if it's a little bit skewed, then I have to decide what I'm going to do. The worst case scenario, undo them, start over again. But let's say that this is supposed to be 19.5 inches, and in this case it's 19 inches. I can then make up that difference by just adjusting the apron ever so slightly. It's a bit of a cheat, but it works, right? We're not cutting corners by any means. The other question, the second question, which the chap had, was about my choice of the depth of the hidden pleat on either side. Now, I don't have an army kilt here to show you, but some kilts, some production kilts, they don't have an apron pleat on the inner apron side at all. The apron just runs out from the last pleat, and that's a nasty little trick. I believe they do it to save a bit of cloth, because if they save twice that amount of cloth or thereabouts over per kilt, over a run of cloth, they might squeeze another kilt out of it. So it's a nasty little economy, and it's a bad idea, because without this pleat, the kilt doesn't hang and drape quite so properly, and it doesn't move quite so well when you're walking about. So, but the thing with, and I've mentioned elsewhere that I tend to set my apron pleat at between 1/4 and 1/3. Now, when I say that, that's by no means precise. That's what I'm hoping for, because we're kind of held hostage by the placement of the apron relative to the tartan. Generally, the most prominent part of the tartan design, which in case is, to my eye, is that guarded yellow stripe there, that's going to be the center of the apron. So if the center of the apron is here or here or here, it's going to dictate how deep that apron is, the apron pleat is, right? The second factor is, have I pleated it to the stripe or the set? Because if I pleat it to the set, I know that, see, when I initially laid out the kilt, there's the first pleat. I bring the edge of the apron over. No, that's far too narrow, right? I bring it over to the next pleat. That seems awfully deep. But so we can't guarantee that it's going to be, we're hoping for, but no less than 1/4 and no more than 1/3. But what counts more than the feeling of sort of rightness when you're looking at it, when it seems unusually deep, is how the kilt's going to hang on the customer and behave when he walks. So if it has to be deeper, so be it. We don't want it too shallow. So when in doubt, make the pleat a little bit deeper. So from the last episode, if you remember, I'd measured off the end. I determined the width of the front apron, sort of double checking, transferred that relative to my center line. And the next step, I'm going to pin that and sew that to my new marks. And then, because we have a little bit run off here, we have a little bit extra, and I think I've said this elsewhere, I'm going to determine, there's the edge of the kilt. I haven't drawn the whole line, but there's the edge of the kilt, about like that. So what I'm going to do is I take from the hip measurement, I use a hand span, and your master hand, your hands aren't the same size. Your master hand, I'm left-handed, is a little bit bigger and a little bit more muscular than your right. So my right span goes to there, just short, but my left span reaches almost to the middle of it. So that's just an extra 1/4 inch that I'm going to take advantage of. So I'm going to do that. I've measured to that mark. I make a cut. I rip. And you want to do that in one clean motion, because if you do it in fits and starts, you can tug the cloth out and you wind up with a wavy bit. Now, I'm going to put that aside and use that for building up my fringed edge, which I cover in another episode. But now from here, sew this edge, baste this pleat, baste the hidden pleat into place, because there's a little bit of stretching and shrinking with the iron to do there, and then make up the edge and then carry on from there. So I hope that answers the questions. If I don't, please let me know. And if you have any more questions, please also let me know, because this is how we all get ahead as we put our heads back and forth about coming up with new ways and means and what works and what doesn't. Thank you very much.